Namaskar. Good evening to all. A very warm welcome to all our viewers. Welcome to our Virasat Talk program. Welcome to our evening session of this 90th edition of the Virasat Talk program being organized by the Archaeological Exploration and Excavation Department of Heritage Society Patna. I request all our viewers to join the session as soon as possible. I also request all of our viewers to share the live link of this session to your colleagues and your peers so that we may reach out to more and more people. Today, it is my honor and privilege to welcome and introduce Professor Suchandra Ghosh from Department of History, University of Hyderabad. Welcome you, ma'am, to our evening session. Professor Suchandra Ghosh is an eminent historian of ancient Indian history, culture, and archaeology. Uh, she has specialized in epigraphy and numismatics. She has broadly takes interest in politico-cultural history of Northwest India, India's linkages with early Southeast Asia, Indian Ocean Buddhist and trade network, and regional history. She is presently working as professor in Department of History, University of Hyderabad, and she has also in the past worked in the Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture in the University of Calcutta. She is a recipient of large number of fellowships and awards from reputed national and international institutions. She is a recipient of the Charles Wallace Visiting Fellowship, Nehru Trust UK Travel Award, Enitas Scholarship, Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Lovick Memorial Grant, Royal Numismatic Society, London, Director de Tudis Associate Fellowship from Foundation Maison des Sciences de Home, Paris. She was awarded the Savitri Chandra Soha Memorial Prize of Indian History Congress for the book From the Oxus to the Indus, a Political and Cultural Study in 2017. She acted as sectional president, Ancient Indian section for the 18th session of the Indian History Congress and regional history congresses in West Bengal and Punjab. She was visiting professor in Paris, Center for Historical Studies in JNU, and Department of History, Jadavpur University. Apart from number of essays published in peer-reviewed national and international journals and edited volume, she is also one of the editors of Revisiting Early India, essays in memory of DC Sarkar, inscriptions and agrarian issues in Indian history, essays in memory of DC Sarkar, subversive sovereign across the seas, Indian Ocean port of trade from early historic times to late colonialism, early Indian history and beyond, essays in honor of Vidhi Chattopadhyay, cross-cultural networking in the Eastern Indian Ocean realm. She's also the area editor of the Encyclopedia of the Ancient History, Asia and Africa, Willie Blackwell. She has widely traveled to number of countries, and she is a recipient of large number of awards. Today, she will be speaking on a very relevant topic and a very interesting topic of on a representation of Greek gods and goddesses in Greco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek visual culture. Definitely, in the visual culture is a very important part of a discipline to study the representations and art styles in the of gods and goddesses. And today, she will be highlighting the religious practice of the rulers and the ruled for projection of cultural identity and for seeking legitimation in the Greco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek culture. She will be using coins, epigraphics, and numismatics in today's presentation uh, uh, to show the link between power, religion, and patronage, largely through the lens of coins and other art historic materials. So I will now request Madam Ghosh to kindly begin the session. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Namaskar. It is a proud privilege for me to be present here today and to share my thoughts in this wonderful series of Virasat Talk. I'm really thankful to the organizers and particularly to Dr. Ashutosh, who has kindly invited me to share some of my ideas with you all. Actually, to begin with, let me clarify that what I am talking today, that is a part of that is a chapter of a recently published book by Routledge World, and which is edited by Rachel Mayers, Professor Rachel Mayers. And this book is about the Greco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek world. So it was, for me, it was a wonderful moment to be it's a very happy occasion that I could present something on this book. I could contribute to this volume, which is indeed a very important one for the understanding of Greco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek history. And therefore, I thought of sharing those thoughts, which is already published with you all. And I have a PowerPoint presentation, so I shall go to that. And then at the end of the talk, if you have any questions, I'll be very glad to respond or discuss with you. Thank you. What happened? Something is wrong. Okay, I'll start again. Share screen. No, sorry. Azad, my thing is not coming.
You can click, ma'am, on share screen option, and then after that, a dialog box will open up. Then you can click on share your application
Yeah, I
option,
did that. Just now I did with you. Yeah, I think.
and then you can click on the dialog box. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Now I'm able to see it.
Okay.
You can directly open, ma'am, your PowerPoint. It will work.
I can, no? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible. You can change it into
Okay, I'll go
slideshow
to the
as well.
slideshow. Right.
And you can click, ma'am, on the option hide in the dialog box in the bottom of the screen.
Okay, now I think it's visible and it's all right.
Yes, ma'am.
So should
You
I
can
start?
click, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt, ma'am. You can click on
Yeah.
hide option in the bottom of the screen.
Okay. Yeah. Is it all right now?
Yes, ma'am. It is all right.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, ma'am.
Studying the visual culture of a particular kingdom or a dynasty offers some insights into the ethos of that kingdom. This again becomes all the more significant when the rulers belong to an ethnic group whose roots are distant from their actual area of control. Visuals could be used by rulers as a tool for exhibiting power, for highlighting the religious practices of the rulers and the ruled, for the protection or projection of one's cultural identity, and even for seeking legitimation. In the Greco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek world, the most persuasive medium of visual culture was coins. Their world encompassed the regions of Sogdiana, Bactria, Peloponnnesadai, Gandhara, Western Punjab, and Eastern Punjab. If you see this map, these are the locations like Arakosia, Peloponnnesadai, Gandhar region. So these the region of Hindu Kush. So all these were actually within the territory of these two, the Greco-Bactrian and the Indo-Greeks. Now, uh, tentative territorial limits for the different kings could be mapped out from their coinages. So that these are actually the only sources from which we can have their idea of the extent of the territory. It has been justly pointed out by Frank Holt that the competition for personal power led them to rule and divide until no strong states remained to gamble for the relics of Alexander's greatness. The reverse devices of the coins of these kings exhibit a continuous tradition of Greek religious iconography. Religion was evocative of the Greek rulers' notion of their own identity. They publicly acknowledged the traditional pantheon of their distant homeland. Zeus, Apollo, Athena, Heracles, and the Dioscuri were the popular choices. Though other deities like Poseidon, Nike, Hermes, Dionysius, Tuke, Helios, and Artemis were also less frequently represented. These gods were not mere monetary emblems, they represented the chosen beneficent deity. We find that the deities chosen by the Greek kings for representation on coins tended to be those who could be used as symbols of power. That means it was not a random choice. There was a good amount of thought behind the representation of the deities. Such as we have representation of Zeus, Heracles, and Athena. All were very powerful and important gods and goddesses of the Greek pantheon. Along with the coins, excavations at different sites of the Indo-Iranian borderlands, which were home to the Graeco-Bactrian and the Indo-Greek rulers, have yielded art historical materials which often portray Greek gods and goddesses. In Bactria, the Greeks had wrested power from the Seleucids. Just to give a little background of the region, the patron deity of the Seleucids was Apollo. When Diodotus I, the first Greco-Bactrian ruler, assumed kingship in Bactria and Sogdiana, he replaced Apollo by none other than the king of the Greek gods, Zeus. Now, if we look at this coin, we find Diodotus. He was the founder of the Greco-Bactrian kingdom. And here we have Zeus hurling thunderbolt. Basilios Diodoto is written here. So, what we find is that the adoption for his coin was Zeus, who was striding to the left, bearing the aegis on his outstretched left arm and holding in his right hand the thunderbolt bolt with an eagle at his feet. I'm sure you can see this. Now, the choice of Zeus suits the name Diodotus, which means the gift of Zeus. On breaking away from the Seleucids, Diodotus called on the greatest of the gods to help him. The figure of Zeus wielding the thunderbolt may have been intended to intimidate Diodotus' enemies. Zeus is one of the most frequently represented gods and is seen occasionally holding the goddess Nike alongside the title Nikephoros. This obviously signifies some kind of conflict between rival groups. Diodotus II issued coins with a balance between male and female divinities. The bronze coins of Diodotus represent Hermes. Hermes was the last born of the Homeric Olympians. That Hermes was revered by the people of Hycanum is evident from a Greek inscription that has been found from the gymnasium, which bears a dedication to the gods Hermes and Heracles, traditionally associated with the Greek gymnasial culture. Though Hermes is represented as the protector of the gymnasium, he had other roles to play. And this is the statue of Hermes that has been found from Iconium near the gymnasium. And this is, we'll come to this, this is the Delphic Maxim where we have the Delphic oracles written in the city of Iconium. Now, apart from this, there are other roles which Hermes performed. And in fact, the art of chemistry is ascribed by Alexandrian authors to the mysterious Hermes Trismegistos, or Hermes the thrice great. And he was considered by them as the father of the Hermetic art, and also the patron of the practitioners of this art, who proclaimed themselves as the sons of Hermes. He was also the patron of heralds, that is, travelers, and as a traveler, he loved to accompany men and to escort them. The caduceus is associated with Hermes, and when he became the general herald and messenger of the gods, the caduceus became his badge of office. Thus, the caduceus has often been used as a symbol for the god. Though Apollo, Zeus's son, god of the sun and patron of truth, archery, music, medicine, and prophecy, was the most majestic of the Olympians, he had a rather low profile among the deities depicted on the coins. However, he did not go unrepresented. He is depicted either in person or through his symbol, the tripod, on the coins of the Bactrian and Indo-Greek kings. Apollo is recognized by his usual representation as a nude youth carrying a bow and an arrow. So here we have representation of Apollo. This representation suggests his role as communicator to mankind of the will of the god through his shrine at Delphi. The tripod is a symbol of the Delphic oracle, as it was here that the priestess of the oracle sat. We are aware of the importance of the Delphic oracle, and Iconium could boast of an inscription reproducing the Delphic oracle. Now, let me to give you an idea of Iconium. Iconium was a perfectly Greek city that was discovered on the bank of the Oxus. North of the Oxus and the Kokcha River. I will be showing you the plan of Iconium later. And this was a very important discovery. Because of this discovery, we see that Greek cultural reflection of Greek cultural elements were found, which was actually the archaeologists had looked for it, and we know that Alfred Foucher was looking for something very Greek in these areas, and finally he thought that it was a mirage. But with the discovery of unearthing of Iconium, that mirage actually came to life. Now, what is interesting is that in the city of Iconium, the Delphic oracles were found, and this is the stone where it was written. The inscription reads, "As a child, be well behaved. As a youth, be self controlled. As an adult, be just. As an elder, be wise. As an one dying, be without pain." An epigram affixed to the inscription emphasizes that this text was copied down at Delphi itself, and it was brought from Delphi to the city of Iconium. Two kings who used Apollo's image and the tripod also bore the name Apollodotus. In Hellenistic times, Heracles, the glory of Hera, was a symbol of strength and courage, and the favorite deity of many rulers, including Alexander. Together with Hermes, he patronized the gymnasium. In the worship of Heracles, large banquets occupied a prominent place. He is one of the most widely represented gods on the coins of Graeco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek kings. Here you can see this is Euthydemus, and actually Greek coins were famous for their portraiture, and you can see here how the portrait of Euthydemus is being depicted. And here we have Heracles sitting on a rock with his club on the thigh, and like this is a perfect representation of Heracles with his, you can see the kind of body, the flexibility of the muscle is evident in this small coin. Now, the transformation from a hero to a deity could be seen in the case of Heracles, who was famous for his 12 labors. Heracles was used by Euthydemus I, Demetrius, and Euthydemus II, and shown in a variety of poses, always with his club and lion skin. It was Euthydemus I who replaced Zeus with Heracles. There are two significant reasons behind his choice. First, the king was originally from Magnesia on the Meander in Ionia, where Heracles enjoyed much popularity. Secondly, he wished to identify himself with Alexander, who was none other than a new Heracles, the mortal who was raised to the pantheon of Olympian gods for his bravery and courage. On the coins of Euthydemus I, Heracles was seated on a rock, and on the coins of Demetrius and Euthydemus II, Heracles was shown standing. We can see here shown standing, holding his club in his left hand and crowning himself with a laurel wreath with his right hand. The types of Demetrius and Euthydemus II may indicate a shift from the old image of Heracles, who on the coins of Euthydemus I was seated as if after his labors. He was tired. On their coins, Heracles stands up with fresh vigor, as if ready to conquer new lands. The most interesting image of Heracles is a bronze statuette found at Iconium. These are, before I go to that, these are again the coins where we have Heracles like he is holding a wreath as if he's ready to crown a king. and here he is, Heracles crowning himself. So this motif gained popularity in the regions of the Indo-Iranian borderlands. Now I come to this magnificent statuette. Now here, this image of Heracles is a bronze statuette found at Iconium, where Heracles is posed in exactly the same manner as on Demetrius's coins. In the coins of Euthydemus II, Heracles is shown already crowned and holding in his outstretched right hand another wreath. The holding of a wreath by Heracles meant that he was proclaiming Euthydemus II a king, which in other words implied that Euthydemus II owed his kingship to Heracles. This particular pose for Heracles was popular throughout the Hellenistic world in the 2nd century BCE. The representation of a boar's head in an issue, and before I go to that, this is another statuette of Heracles which has been found from Iconium, and so this shows the predominance of the cult of Heracles in Iconium. Now I move into Menander's coins, and this is a very interesting thing because we have the representation of a boar's head in an issue of Menander, which might link it with the fourth labor of Heracles, the capture of the gigantic boar of Mount Erymanthos. The palm branch on the right reverse might signify his subsequent victory. So here you have the palm branch. The goddess Athena was equally famous in the Indo-Greek world. The monarch of the whole Indo-Greek kingdom, integrating several areas of the northwest, was Menander first. We all know about Menander because he is the only ruler. He is represented in a Buddhist text called Mendopaiho, and which is a conversation between, as you all know, between Menander and the Buddhist monk Nagasena. His dominant reverse type was Athena, as goddess of war, appropriating her father Zeus's thunderbolt was an appropriate design for Menander. Turn suggested that as Athena had been a principal deity of the Greek pantheon and was also widely represented on Alexander's coinage, Menander adopted this device in order to emphasize that, in spite of the predominantly Indian character of his empire, he was still a Greek king. The warlike posture of Athena is accentuated by the fact that her shield is decorated by another of her attributes, the aegis, a monstrous goat skin decorated with the head of the Gorgon. According to Greek mythology, Perseus killed the Gorgon Medusa. She had snakes for her hair. The coiled form of the snake had also been used as a design for Menander's helmet. The Gorgon's head seems to have had an independent existence of a magical symbol to ward off evil. Interestingly, the portrait of Menander on the obverse of the coin shows the edges appearing on his shoulder. He brandishes his javelin. Now let me show one of the coin. Yeah, here we can see that Menander is brandishing his javelin in the same manner as Athena hurling her thunderbolt. By choosing precisely the image of Athena, Menander wanted to make a direct reference both to Alexander as king of Macedonia and also to the Greek homeland. The representation of Athena on the coin is the same as that which appears on the Macedonian coins of King Antigonus Gonatas and on the Alexander portrait coins of Ptolemy. Here is another coin of Menander, where actually we can see the Medusa helmet. So Medusa is the Gorgon, and this is the Medusa helmet. And if we notice this, then this kind of curled hair, this was also represented in the helmet of Menander, which I just mentioned. This is just to show this is a much later representation. Now we come to Poseidon. He is a significant inclusion in the repertoire of Greek deities. Poseidon was the god of the sea and earthquakes and river of horses to men. Poseidon's representation was perhaps connected with his association with horses. The Greeks prayed to Poseidon to be kindly in hurt and help those who voyage in the ships. So he was a kind of a protector of people who was going for long sea voyages. The robe and palm in his left hand and as depicted on the coins of Antimachus were probably a local innovation. The coins of Artemidorus bear the depiction of the Greek goddess Artemis. She was a virgin goddess, twin sister of Apollo and mighty huntress. Artemis's most distinctive attributes were her bow and arrow, which you can see. This is a very stylized piece of coin, but these bows and arrows are very significant, and we have her hunter's dress that can also be seen. She was also sometimes equipped with a quiver, pair of hunting spears. So here is the quiver from where she can actually get the bows from there, from the arrows from there. But she was also found being depicted with torch, lyre, and or water jug. The goddess was clothed in a knee-length girl's dress or a full-length woman's robe chiton with a cloak, that is chemise or himatan, headgear, a crown tiara. Here we can see her with a crown tiara, headband, or sometimes there is an animal pelt cap also, and that is of course, and occasionally the pelt of a deer draped across her shoulders. A deer is her animal. She is always seen in sculptures with deer. We can see this is the temple of Artemis at Ephesus. This is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Pantaleon, and you can see this is actually the situation, and this is of course a creation. Uh, Pantaleon, Ilion, and Agathocles are the only ones who used Dionysus as a revered deity on their coins. The son of Zeus by a mortal mother, he was the god of the wine and fertility, of joyous life and hospitality, and was associated with revelry. On these coins, Dionysus is recognizable by his ivy leaf wreath and diadem, his usual attributes. So here this is the wreath that we can see, and here is the diadem, which shows that this is the bust of Dionysius. Then there are other elements also, because the representation, then we find that he also carries over his shoulder his pine cone, the thyros, which is pine cone tip staff. So this is the pine cone, as you can see. So this also is carried. So this shows his other elements. The reverse design also depicts a panther, the animal Dionysius rode on his journey to the east. The representation of the vine forms a part of the entire scheme of representing Dionysius. Perhaps they used the Dionysian device to celebrate their victory over Kabul to honor Dionysius. That is, it's talking about Pantaleon. Perhaps they were celebrating by honoring Dionysius, the mythical conqueror of the Kabul Valley. The helmet with the bull's horn and ears owes its origin to Dionysius. It has been suggested that the bull's horns came into visual prominence as a part of the Dionysius' iconography in the Hellenistic period, when they were used to suggest the Dionysius-like divine and royal powers of the king. Apart from the Olympian deities, a few other deities also found a place on the coins of the Indo-Greek rulers. A very significant representation is, of course, Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. She is normally with wings and is seen both with Zeus and Athena. She is seen standing on their outstretched hands. An appealing depiction is an image standing Nike holding a reed in her outstretched right hand. And here, let me just explain to you. Here we have Zeus sitting, and on his outstretched right hand, there is Nike with holding a wreath. So she is ready to actually confer that wreath upon somebody who is victorious, and she has the wings. This is a beautiful representation of Nike that we find, and always she is depicted and in an image like we see standing Nike holding a wreath in her outstretched right hand, and it is easy to assume that the goddess of victory was about to offer the wreath to a triumphant ruler. Thus Nike symbolized, this is another beautiful, this is also from the city of Ephesus. So Nike symbolized victory for the rulers. There is the other goddess who is Tyche or Tyche, And she is the on the coins of Amyntas. We have an enthroned Tuke holding a cornucopia, that is the horn of plenty. She is there, and she is particularly known for her headdress, the turreted crowns, which symbolizes her as a city goddess too. So she was the Greek goddess of chance, fate, and fortune. She was also represented as a city goddess with turreted crown. And this kind of turreted crown were later on used in the coins of Amba. We find in the coin where Pakalavati Devata Ambai is written, and it's a coin of Ages the First. I'm sorry, I did not have the picture of that coin. So it represents the city goddess, the turreted crown. Now we move into the repertoire of the Iranian gods. Now, though the Iranian gods are not singularly represented on the coins of the Bactrian and Indo-Greeks, they find a place in the pantheon through assimilation. The representative example is the Iranian god Mithra. He has been assimilated with Zeus and also with Apollo. A coin of the Greek king Hermes shows Zeus wearing a Mithrite cap with a multi-layered crown. So here you have, this is the coin of Hermes. And then there is we can see, it's the cursor. Sorry, wait 1 second. Yeah. We can see the rays emanating from the crown, which is a symbol of the sun. So Apollo appears in the guise also of sun god. So originally the Greek sun god Helios had a separate identity, but later he was assimilated with the representation of Apollo, shown with a rayed head driving a chariot. This is we can find later on. But even on the issues where he is holding a bow and an arrow, rays emanating from his head can be seen. In this case, Helios Mithra perhaps converged, forming a single identity of a sun god. So this is a syncretic form of depiction where Helios and Mithra form converges together. In his coinage, then we move into Plato, and significantly in his coinage, Plato introduced an unprecedented and unique reverse type, which you don't find anywhere in Greco-Bactrian coinage. That is Helios radiate standing in a quadriga. So here it is. This is the quadriga, Helios, and you can see the rays. Plato actually did not issue a lot of coins because he ruled for a very short period of perhaps 5 years, and between 145 to 140 BCE. And his territory in southern Bactria would not have been very large. But the use of the sun god as a reverse device and the title Epiphanes, which in turn was used by Antiochus, are attempts to legitimize his rule among his subjects. Let me tell you, actually, the Greek rulers, they were ruling in different pockets. So it is not like that one Greek ruler succeeded the other. So there, then the entire in the Iranian borderlands, we have different pockets where different Greek rulers were ruling. Then we move into another group of gods, and here we have the Dioscuri. The Dioscuri, they are two persons together, and they are two brothers perhaps, and they were known as Castor and Pollux, and they were the sons of Leda, who were connected with the Trojan War. On Eucrates' coins, they are shown charging on horseback and holding spears. And you can see the prancing horse. You can see in the coin how the legs, if you see, that they are in a charging position. This provides the epitome for a motif running throughout the history of the Bactrian kingship and warfare. Hellenistic kings were the leaders of armies, and the kingship depended on military strength, which in Bactria was cavalry, and therefore for Eucrates, a king who experienced continued warfare, the Dioscuri represented the power base, and if all went well for him, his reason for success. This was a well-known Seleucid type, including the legend Soter, meaning savior, in a very special sense. Eucrates' use of this type meant that he had come to the east as a Soter or a savior, perhaps. The Dioscuri were part of the wider Hellenistic Bactrian culture. This is evidenced by circa 150 BC because there is a temple at Dilbarjin where they are featured in two wall paintings. Along with the visual evidence of Greek deities on coins, excavated materials from certain sites offer some clues to the presence of objects which are reminiscent of the presence of Greek deities within the territory of these rulers. Smaller sized reliefs and statuettes in a variety of materials, it could be metal, terracotta, bone, and ivory, are known from Iran and in some quantity from Central Asia and the Indo-Iranian borderlands. The excavation at Takhti Sangin, you can see the place Takhti Sangin, which means the stone platform in Tajikistan, brought to light a monumental temple in a store, votive store, and there were a lot of stores like there, votive offerings. We have a scabbard and that has been found, and it is decorated with a relief of Alexander of Macedon, shown as Heracles. This is the representation of Alexander. Moreover, together with the sheath, a reliably dated stone altar was found, which was supporting a bronze figure of Silenus Marcius playing a double flute. The Greek inscription on the altar base reads as follows: Atrosochus dedicated his vow to the oxus. Silenus, a satyr, the foster father of Dionysus, is represented here in a very typical fashion with an enormous head, broad nose, and projecting ears. This was a characteristically Greek convention for depicting such wild and lustful persons. The worship of Silenus may indicate the presence of the cult of Dionysius in this region. Though there is hardly any strong numismatic evidence to corroborate it, the writings of classical writers show that the cult of Dionysius was quite popular in some areas of the Indo-Iranian borderlands. From the writings of Orion, we find that Alexander came across a city called Nisa, situated between the Kofan and the Indus. According to a legend, this city is said to have been founded by Dionysus when he subdued the Indians and named it Nisa in the honor of his nurse Nis. The people of Nisa begged Alexander to let them remain free and independent. They claimed that since ivy grew nowhere in India but at Nisa, Dionysus must have been the founder of their city. According to Megasthenes, Dionysius was the bestower of wine for the Indians and the one who influenced them to devote themselves completely to Bacchic ecstasies. That the cult of Dionysus had some impact in the region is also attested by the fact that Dionysian themes are a common subject on drinking cups, bowls and reliefs. I have actually shown in a different presentation that how in the Hellenistic milieu of the Northwest India, wine becomes a very much a part and parcel of the life, and then we have this boisterous orgy, the bacchanalian scenes, which are related to the cult of Dionysius. Uh, Now, another dedication of an altar to the Greek goddess Hestia in Zeus's grove comes from the site of Quilab, north of the Oxus in Tajikistan. This is the site of Quilab. A very important discovery. This dedication is by a man named Heliodotus in honor of the local Greek king Euthydemus and his son Demetrius in the grove of Zeus. Put differently, the goddess was asked to ensure the protection of King Euthydemus and his son Demetrius. This Heliodotus must have been a royal officer who publicly sought protection for the royal family from the goddess Hestia. Hestia was the daughter of Rhea and Kronos and sister of Zeus. The name Hestia appears in Greek script on ceremonial drinking horns from the site of Nisa. Now I come back again to Iconium, and which was actually situated at the confluence of the Oxus, as I mentioned earlier, Amudarya, and its tributary, the Kokcha. Iconium's direct connection into a wider Greek world is evident from its material remains, sculptural representations, and epigraphic mentions. An interesting gold-plated silver plaque has been found in the temple of Iconium. Here, the medallion represents the goddess Cybele, She is dressed in chiton and a short himatan. If you can see, here is Cybele. And the goddess Cybele is represented on the plaque as crossing a mountainous region in a lion-drawn chariot. Her association with the lion emphasizes her warlike character. Nike, the goddess of victory, can be seen driving the chariot of Cybele. Since Cybele is associated with Nike, we can very well assume that the ruler of Iconium considered her a symbol of sure victory for his kingdom. And so we find that Cybele was not only a simple war goddess, but a victorious one for the kingdom. Another interesting feature of this plaque is the polos headdress. You can see that this is the, sorry, I don't know what is happening. So the polos headdress of Cybele is very important because we learn from Pausanias that Tuke, the Greek goddess of fortune, whom we just saw in the coins, had a polos on her head and the horn of plenty or Keros Amaltheus in her right hand. The polos headdress of Cybele may connect her with Tuke, though she does not have the cornucopia. There's every possibility that an idea may have gained ground in this region that Cybele Nicephorus brought prosperity to the kingdom. So the victorious war goddess Cybele also became the goddess of prosperity for the kingdom of Iconium. The cultural influence of Greek rule in Sirkap, as revealed in this excavated material, is quite significant. However, we hardly have any sculptures of Greek deities from Sirkap. Among the stone artifacts, attention may be drawn to the toilet trays or decorative plates where the Greek gods and goddesses are depicted as part of a story. The theme of the earliest tray, depicting Apollo disrobing Daphne, is entirely Western, and so is the costume and style. Henry Paul Frankfurt believes in to be the one of the earliest specimens of Bactrian Greek art. In the vast repertoire of jewelry excavated from Taxila, some are distinctively Greek or Greco-Roman in character. Just a few words about the functionalities of this tray. So these were actually in the early phase from Taxila, we find this kind of trays where stories of representation of Greek mythology or representation of deities are found, or very interesting legends, stories were depicted. But as we move into the Scytho-Parthian or in the Parthians period, we find that the trays become much more functional, and there we do not have such kind of depiction of Greek mythologies or something like that. And this one actually, this story gained very much popularity in the region, and so therefore, and these were custom made. People, actually the elites had ordered this, and so they were custom made, and these were used, the functional, generally it is said that these were used as toilet trays. Though there are other kind of suggestion also. Now from Sirkap itself, we come to, actually I'm talking of some of the, though in Sirkap we do not have the existence of the gods and statuettes of gods, Greek gods and goddesses, but what we have is that there are a lot of jewelries have been found from Sirkap, and gold brooches display figures of gods and goddesses like winged Aphrodite, Eros, and Psyche. Some of the motifs for finger rings include Heracles standing with his club and Nike holding a reed and diadem, cornucopia, etc. Some were imports from the Western world, also been found, for example, silver Dionysus head, the bronze of Harpocrates, and there are other repoussé figures also. From objects unearthed in a specific site, we shall now turn our attention to certain objects representing Greek deities with uncertain provenance, but attributed to a region between the valley of the Oxus and the Indus. So the objects which I'll be talking now, little bit, one or two, we are not sure of the provenance, but definitely it was from the region. A silver bowl housed in the Getty Museum represents a Dionysius caressing Ariadne in a composition inspired by the Eros Psyche couple. It has been dated to the end of the 2nd century or the beginning of the 1st century BCE. In the Cretan ritual of Dionysius, it is said that Ariadne was his consort. And we have lot of evidence. For example, this is from Tilia Tepe. I'm coming to this. Thus, here the artists were aware of the myths and legends of Greece, which is important and which shows the connected history of the region with the mainland Greece. We may also introduce here an example of a slightly later period, an inlaid gold pendant from Tilia Tepe, south of the Oxus. A pair of pendants show Dionysus and Ariadne. Here we have Dionysus with Ariadne on a lion with wine and satyr below waiting to catch the spiel. Here is the satyr and he is actually holding a right arm, waiting to catch the spiel in his right arm. Boardman considers it as straight Greek iconography. Knowledge of Greek tales and iconography is reflected here. So all this suggests a kind of a connected history between the region of the Indo-Iranian borderlands and the mainland Greece, or to some regions to the east. Another object that draws our attention is an ivory medallion on which we have a scene in relief. It represents in a pastoral city setting a scantily, this was published by Osman Boperici, scantily dressed Aphrodite sitting on a mound of rocks. The whole scene is composed of 3 figures, Aphrodite in the middle, as you can see. Then we have the winged female figure to the left and Eros to the right, the back of Aphrodite. Aphrodite is represented semi-nude, seated on a pile of rocks, her left hand resting on a rock, while her other hand is on the right thigh. She wears a himatan loosely draped around the lower part of her body, leaving the torso bare. The winged female figure, wearing a sleeved chiton, stands on a capital, holding what is probably a mirror box. At the extreme left of the plaque, winged Eros stands on the same pile of rocks on which Aphrodite is seated. His right arm is raised while the other arm is making a gesture. Here we can find that right arm is raised and the other arm is probably making a gesture. It's not very clear, as if to unveil the himatan of the goddess from the back. This type of mirror was very popular in Greece from the second half of the 5th century BCE. Aphrodite is an Olympian goddess of love and beauty. Now, representations of Greek deities in the visual culture of the Indo-Greek world is certainly related to the patronage of the kings. Traveling artists could have helped in the execution of different art forms like medallions, toilet trays, and independent sculptures. There could also have been a migration of craftsmen after the occupation of Bactria by the nomads. So it is not to suggest that everything was brought in. Craftsmen had moved, there was mobility of craftsmen, and they had something, a model in front of them, and perhaps that was imitated or emulated. These sculptures are striking examples of the continuity of the Greek tradition vigorously followed in Hellenistic Bactria. What is significant is that the gods chosen for depiction on their coins by the Bactrian and the Indo-Greek rulers were those who represented symbols of power, royal power. For the consolidation of their power, these successors of Alexander used a certain set of deities who symbolized strength and power among the Olympian deities. The numerous ways in which Zeus, Athena, and Heracles have been depicted is remarkable. Another criterion for choice was their association with Alexander or the Seleucids. These were closely associated with the intention of making the rulers acceptable to the subject population, a sizable number of whom were Greek. Hellenistic identity through the portrayal of the deities was very actively claimed and cherished. With this penchant for displaying Hellenistic identity, the settlers sought to follow the artistic tradition of classical Greece rather than the tradition of their contemporary Greek society. To cite a few examples, Hermes is shown in Iconium in the archaic style of the end of the 6th century BC as a bearded man. So here you see the representation of Hermes from Iconium, but he is represented as it would have been represented in Greece in the 6th century BCE. Not much innovation in the iconography of deities could be perceived in the numismatic issues also. Again, in the technique of composing mosaics, and here you can, these I have already shown earlier. Now we come to mosaic. In the technique of composing mosaics, we have instances of pebble mosaics which were used as pavement in bathrooms. Instead of being composed of small stone cubes, which could be laid down in tight patterns to create skillful effects of depth and color, the mosaics were made by the old technique of setting pebbles in a bed of binding mortar. So the the process of doing mosaic was also same which was there in early period, not when Iconium was being created. So they were actually having those methods of setting pebbles in a bed of binding mortar. The mosaic floor of the palace bathroom displays dolphins, seahorses, and sea monsters. So here you can see these are the sea monsters, and here you can see the dolphin. So these designs were also very common across the region. It can perhaps be said that the religious iconography of the Greco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek world epitomizes the tendency to take inspiration from the classical Greek world. And I conclude here, but what I was trying to say was that we have this representation of the Greek deities, and the choice was not rampant. It was a clear, thoughtful choice, which the deities who could give the king some sort of recognition of the power. And then we find that when we come to the archaeological sites, the findings, they also show that they were the people, for example, in the case of mosaic or other things, the people were actually uh, clinging to the old techniques, the old ideas, and in this, perhaps in the diasporic community in Iconium. And this last slide, the thank you slide, is also very important because it is from Gandhara. It is a weightlifting stone, and here we have the representation of Heracles, and Heracles fighting the Nemean lion, and this is also one of the labors of Heracles. Uh, Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for your very nice, very interesting, and thought-provoking lecture, and for depicting and for showing us a very beautiful slides and very informative slides with all the details and depicting different coins from the Indo-Greek culture. So, thank you, ma'am, for your very, very interesting lecture. Uh, we have
It was a
received few
pleasure.
questions and queries from our audience. If you allow me, then if
Yeah,
we can
sure.
take.
Yes, I'll try to
Thank you, ma'am.
answer.
The first question is from Manita Pandey, madam. Uh, Srimati Manita Pandey, ma'am, is asking which of the Indo-Greek ruler bears the Pali title Dharmiksha, follower of the Dharma?
Dhamikasa. Actually, not many, but the Indo-Greek rulers, they were mainly, the common title was Soter, that is savior, and there was a kind of a suggestion that because Menander was using Dhamikasa, and then there was this cross, the wheel in Menander's coins, so there was a suggestion that perhaps Menander has converted to Buddhism. But we find that there were other rulers also who were using this title, but they had nothing to do with Dhamikasa. So if you read the catalogs, you'll find particularly in Ain Lahiri's very old book, but it is very important because there is a list of the names of the rulers and the kind of title that those rulers had taken. So Menander was one of the main rulers who had used this term title.
Thank you, ma'am. Our second question is from Dr. Anantastos Dwivedi, sir. Dr. Dwivedi is asking which Greek deity has been depicted in large numbers on Indo-Greek coin and what was the reason behind it?
Yeah, thank you, Ashutosh. Actually, we cannot pinpoint on one. There are three. Heracles. Actually, I should start with Zeus, who was the leader, the king of the Olympians. Zeus, Heracles, and Athena. So the main reason is that they were the patron deities. Zeus was the definitely he was the king of the deities. He was the like very important deity, and Athena was the daughter of Zeus, and they were projecting powers. And for Heracles, it was the situation was such that Heracles was originally not a part of the Olympian deity. He was a hero, and from hero, like our Krishna, so he was hero, and from hero he was actually elevated to the to the position of a deity. So the deities which emanated power, which showed strength, are mostly represented. And in the Indo-Greek domain, in the Bactrian Greek and the Indo-Greek domain, there were houses. Sometimes we have one particular house, so the people who were ruling there, the rulers, were following Zeus. So like Eucratides, we have the house of Eucratides who were using Zeus. We have the house of Euthydemus, they were using Heracles. But then this did not continue like that in a linear fashion. Then there were different kind of rulers, and who started taking up this motive, because for Alexander, Heracles was also very important. So those who wanted to show some kind of connection with Alexander, they also used the Heracles motive. And Athena, as the war goddess, she was always very important and favored among the Olympians. And she was also as I mentioned, the daughter of Zeus.
Thank you, ma'am. We have one another question from Sri Rajguru Yashveer Singh Vatsji. He is asking, Madam, can we compare Heracles with Indian god Hanuman?
I'm sorry, with Hanuman, there has not been any comparison, but of course, with Krishna. Heracles and Krishna has been compared. Heracles have been compared with Shiva also, but largely with Krishna, because Krishna also had his labors, his fightings when Kangsha was trying to kill him and other things. And Heracles, we have the labors, and particularly one labor where we have the episode of Krishna Kesivad. So this Krishna killing the horse demon Kesi, and he was a boy Krishna. So that is similar to Heracles's eighth labor, where we find that Heracles is eighth or ninth, I'm forgetting, but one of the labors, where Heracles is defeating the female horse, the mares of of Diomedes. So that is the one reason of comparison. And there is another reason, is that when Megasthenes writes, so he says, he talks about Sorasena, the region of the western part, and then he says that here they worship Heracles. Actually, Heracles was not worshipped in there. The Krishna was worshipped, but there was such kind of commonality, and therefore it was said that it is. But with Hanuman, I don't think there is any commonality. He's never been compared with Hanuman.
Thank you, ma'am. We don't have any question. If there is any question coming, maybe it will come. In the meantime, I was just little curious to know. I don't have much knowledge of Greek history, but I was just curious to know that coins are definitely an important medium to represent the power, patronage, religion in the visual culture. But so the Greek coins, which have gods and goddesses represented in the coins, uh, do there are there any kind of iconographic elements which also depict the place or the local elements from or the workshop from where it has been coined up?
No, actually, for the Greek gods, Greek coins, the basic thing is there. We have on the obverse generally. We have, excepting a few from Menander, where you have the representation of animals, mostly animal heads and others. Because I showed the boar, because it was similar. related to Heracles's labor, but we have ox also and other animals. But it's generally the system is you have on the obverse the ruler, the portrayal of the ruler, and on the reverse you have the deity. So this is the general trend. But among the deities, it's mostly Greek deities, but we have very interestingly two, three coins where we have the ones Vasudeva Sankarsana. So on the obverse you have on the obverse you have Shankarsana, that is Balaram, and on the reverse you have Vasudeva. So these coins actually represent that when they were coming into the south of the Hindu Kush, so therefore the elements of the area was being represented. So this is the Agathocles coin. It's a very important coin and which shows Indian elements. Then we have a representation of a lady also, which is not a part of the Greek pantheon. So likewise, 2, 3 representations are there, but you do not have nature or something like that represented in the coins. Basically, the deities.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for the very wonderful lecture today. At the end of this session, let me convey my vote of thanks to everyone present here. I, on behalf of Heritage Society and its large team of more than 90,000 active followers from different parts of India and abroad, I would like to express my profound gratitude to our today's distinguished and eminent speaker, Professor Suchandra Ghosh, madam, for joining us and for delivering her lecture today. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. I'm extremely
It was
thankful.
a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm also extremely thankful to Heritage Society Director General, Dr. Ananta Astos Dwivedi, sir, and all the other staff and officers of Heritage Society for organizing this weekly talk series. Thank you, sir. I'm also thankful to the Virasat Mitras, our followers and audience, and the most important, all the people who joined us today in this today's evening session. It's all about your effort and your support to us, because of which this academic endeavor is successful. So thanks to all our Virasat Mitra followers and all our audience for supporting us. We will have more lectures in near future. So stay tuned with Heritage Society and have a great day. Good night. Thank you, ma'am.